Good morning, America. Trail of destruction. This twister in Florida caught on camera as deadly tornadoes devastate the South. 48 twisters reported this week. Now the death toll is rising.
It looks like a war zone up here.
The storm system moving east and a new threat brewing down south.
Breaking overnight, protests erupt over that deadly police shooting in Charlotte. Prosecutors deciding not to charge this officer after that shooting in broad daylight caught on camera. The new evidence and what the victim's family is saying now.
Donald Trump's victory tour. The president-elect celebrates his deal to save more than 1,000 jobs, making good on a campaign promise.
Call up the head of Carrier. Hello, this is the president. But I don't care. It's so much fun for me.
As Sarah Palin raises speculation over her role in the Trump administration.
And missing mom exclusive. The husband breaking his silence, speaking out exclusively to ABC News about that horrific abduction.
I thought about her being there, screaming my name, and that I wasn't there.
Now police release a new description of the kidnappers. And for the first time, we hear how his wife finally made her escape on that freeway, only on GMA this morning.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And we do say good morning, America, and what a powerful interview with the husband of that California mom. We're going to have much more of that exclusive just ahead.
And I'm sure they have to have her home, and there are other happy homes out there this morning on that big job news from Donald Trump. He's heading to the Carrier plant in Indiana, where lots of families are celebrating 1,000 jobs being saved, and the president-elect is going to join them later today.
Yeah, and Trump's team is signaling there's going to be more direct intervention like this. We're going to examine that coming up. But first, the aftermath of those devastating tornadoes in the southeast. Homes and businesses destroyed, at least 5 people dead. Alabama's seen some of the worst destruction, and ABC's Philip Mena starts us off in Flat Rock. Good morning, Philip.
George, good morning. The only way that you can tell that this was a daycare center is by the few toys that remain. This is where a family of 7 rushed over from their mobile home looking for a safe place to ride out the storm, but sadly, they ran right into harm's way.
Just one day after at least 16 tornadoes devastated much of the South, families in Alabama beginning to pick up the pieces. This door frame, the only thing remaining for one family.
We were all holding on to each other, crouched down on the floor. Just, dear God, please let me live through this.
All that's left of this daycare, a small room.
We've been fortunate compared to the last few times that it's came through.
In Rosalie, many parts of the town leveled, debris up in the trees. The shelves still standing at this destroyed convenience store. In Mississippi, families assessing the damage as they cut and clean outside their homes. Look how this pecan tree sliced right through this house.
We had to get the ladder over there and get her out the window because she couldn't get out of any doors.
Tornado warning. And in the Florida Panhandle, a powerful water spout forming off the coast Wednesday afternoon. Near Atlanta, a tornado warning with strong winds blowing this huge piece of metal from a recycling center about a quarter mile away. Students hunkered down in the school hallway, waiting out the storm. Strong winds knocking down trees, severing power lines.
And many in this area are still without power this morning. The good news is the storms that caused all of this damage have moved out. Robin?
All right, Philip, thank you. Thinking of everybody there. And we're going to go to Gio Benitez now in Gatlinburg, Tennessee for the latest on those devastating and deadly wildfires that have forced thousands of evacuations. Good morning, Gio.
Robin, good morning to you. So many people here have just lost everything, and in many cases, they don't even have insurance. Behind me right now is a very famous restaurant here in the Smoky Mountains. It's called the Alamo. I want to switch cameras here so you can get a wide look at just how much destruction there is here. You can still see so much of it smoldering here. Now, I want to show you a video from a firefighter driving through this fire. You can see the intense winds helping spread the blaze more and more. At least 7 people have died. Others are still missing. And now I want to show you the aftermath. This is what you see all over this place. Homes are quite literally just disappearing. Some 700 structures damaged, or destroyed. But we do have some good news. There were heavy rains yesterday. Those put out a lot of these fires, so now much of this threat is now over. Now folks will start rebuilding.
That's good to hear. We're going to talk to Rob about that in just a moment. But Gio, we know that so many people are doing whatever they can to help, including someone who's known quite well in that area, Dolly Parton. Tell people what she's doing.
Well, that's right. As you know, Dollywood is just miles from here. People go there all the time. And this area, this is where she grew up. She's going to be donating $1,000 per month to each family affected by this until they get back on their feet. Quite remarkable.
Indeed. Such good people there. Gio, thank you. And we said that severe weather, as you said, is moving out this morning. And Rob, you're tracking that path for us?
Yeah, and Robin, I just want to say that so much in weather is about good and bad. They so desperately needed rain. They were going to get that rain. In advance of that rain, that's when those winds kicked up, and obviously the devastating fires broke out. But those rains so helpful in the past 3 days, over 4 inches in Huntsville, over 5 inches in Knoxville, very close to that fire zone. And yes, we have another storm that's brewing across the Pacific. It will dive down into the plains. Some heavy rain expected on Saturday across parts of eastern Texas, getting up into Louisiana and Arkansas, and then stretching back into the drought zone, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama. By Sunday night, you're going to see some heavy rain again. Look at some of these numbers. Locally, possibly over 4 inches of rainfall from eastern Texas across Louisiana and just south of the fire zone. So they'll take every inch of rain they can get. George, back over.
It is coming. Okay, Rob, thanks very much. Let's get the latest now on the Trump transition. The president-elect and Mike Pence heading out of Trump Tower today on what they call a thank you tour, starting at that Carrier plant in Indianapolis, which reversed course, decided to keep more than 1,000 jobs in the U.S. after jawboning from Trump. ABC's Tom Yamas is at Trump Tower with all the details. Good morning, Tom.
George, good morning to you. That Cincinnati rally will be the first public event for the president-elect since winning the election. And we all know how much Mr. Trump loves those big crowds. We just checked. There's still tickets available, but there's a report out this morning that Team Trump has purchased radio ads promoting the event to make sure every seat is filled. But before that event, Trump has some business to take care of. Today, President-elect Donald Trump will announce a deal, one he promised on the campaign trail, to show he's already fighting for the American worker.
It's not presidential for the President of the United States to call up the head of Carrier. Hello, this is the president. But I don't care. It's so much fun for me. I love doing it. Please don't take that away.
In a statement, Carrier saying they negotiated an agreement with the incoming administration, part of which will result in preserving more than 1,000 jobs. Details of the agreement unclear, but a source telling ABC News a regulatory incentive was a factor. Carrier worker Kip Glenn, a Trump supporter, praising the president-elect.
The spirits were high last night. People were actually handshaking, hugging. He's not even been sworn in yet. Is already showing us that he is a worker.
But some of Trump's critics want more details before they celebrate the incoming president.
Yeah, jobs are good. The question is, what exactly is the deal? I mean, the first thing you learn when you're talking about deals is let's read all of the details. Let's read the fine print.
Trump also working on filling his cabinet. Now, a familiar face is under consideration for Secretary of Veterans Affairs.
Thank you so much.
A Palin aide telling ABC News, Palin told Trump transition officials in recent days, I feel as though the megaphone I have been provided can be used in a productive and positive way to help those desperately in need. And as Trump hosts that event at Carrier to show he's fighting for the working class, the Washington Post points out this morning that Trump is assembling what could be the wealthiest cabinet in the history of this country. Trump campaigned against Wall Street, and he also said he was going to drain the swamp, yet he's filling his cabinet with billionaires, millionaires, and some Washington insiders. George?
We will take a look at that, Tom Yamas. We're going to take a look at it now with our chief political analyst, Matthew Dowden. Let's start out with Carrier. Big political win. For Donald Trump, and his team is signaling. Steve Mnuchin, his incoming Treasury Secretary nominee, has said that we're going to see more of this, more direct intervention with companies. Now, this is a strategy that has opportunity but also limits.
Yes, but the power of this is twofold, I think, for Donald Trump. One, it's real. I mean, those 1,000 families or 1,000 individuals right before Christmas now know they have jobs and well-paying jobs that are going to stay in Indiana, so I'm sure their children and their families are very happy. But two, symbolism. He's just president-elect, but presidents rely a lot on symbolism. And the symbolism of this is that I didn't forget you in the Midwest. I didn't forget you. Other people have forgotten you. I'm willing to go to whatever it takes. But there's a broad question about what is his economic policy. You can't just do these one-offs without defining your economic policy. And in the end, Donald Trump will be defined by 4.9%, which is the unemployment rate that it is today that's going into his new administration.
Meanwhile, as Tom mentioned, you got 2 billionaires being nominated now to the cabinet. Steve Mnuchin worth probably several $100 million as well. And now Democrats signaling they're going to push hard for tax returns from all these nominees as they come up for confirmation.
Before the election was over, before election night and right after, I described the Trump group as a pirate ship. Well, some of these nominees, it looks like it's a pirate yacht that we've seen unfold in this. I think the nomination, the confirmation hearings are going to be some of the most spectacular theater that we have seen, just from all the questions from the Attorney General, from the Treasury, from all of those questions that are in such contrast to many things Donald Trump said during the campaign.
Sarah Palin?
Sarah Palin, I guess, is the Elizabeth Swann, who was the Keira Knightley character in Pirates of the Caribbean. She's going to come in. But I think one thing, it's going to be interesting how he invokes discipline in this, but I think the interesting thing is on January 20th, he turns the Black Pearl over to the Queen Elizabeth II, and it's much more difficult to manage the Queen Elizabeth II.
Different from campaigning. Okay, Matthew Dowd, thanks very much.
Do you stay up at night trying to come up with things?
It just comes to me. It just comes to me.
I was wondering. All right. Thank you, Matt. But now to Charlotte, North Carolina, where protests erupted overnight after prosecutors said they would not charge the officer who fatally shot Keith Lamont Scott in September. ABC's Eva Pilgrim has the latest.
Overnight, people taking to the streets, 4 arrested protesting over a fatal police shooting. This morning, no charges for the police officer who fired the fatal shots, killing a Charlotte man.
I am fully satisfied and entirely convinced that Officer Vincent's use of deadly force was lawful.
The district attorney laying out the details of the 2-month investigation into Keith Lamont Scott's death, saying all credible evidence uncovered points to the 42-year-old being armed, something Scott's family had disputed, his wife saying as much on the tape from the shooting.
He doesn't have a gun.
The DA also presenting evidence police did see a gun prior to approaching Scott, radioing in before the shooting.
It was a guy that was parked next to us that was rolling the joint, had a gun.
As well as releasing this surveillance video from a nearby 7-Eleven earlier that day, showing Mr. Scott with a bulge around his right ankle. In previously released police video, you can see his pant leg pulled up, an empty holster revealed. The DA now concluding Scott failed to comply with command to drop his gun, justifying the shooting. Scott's family disagreeing, asking why a father waiting to pick up his kid ended up dead.
But that does not mean that this officer's killing of Keith Scott was right. All that means is that under the view of the DA's office, it wasn't criminal.
And the DA saying that police found a gun at the scene that they have since identified as Scott's. His family saying in none of that video do you clearly see him holding a gun, and they are profoundly disappointed with the DA's decisions. They are considering pursuing a civil case. Robin?
We'll see what happens here, Eva. Thank you, Michael.
All right, Robin, now to the new clues about that deadly plane crash that killed 71 people. David Curley has more on what the survivors are now revealing about the accident.
This morning, Colombian authorities confirmed this jet didn't have enough reserve fuel, and radio calls suggest it ran out of fuel. As this new video shows the excited Brazilian soccer team heading to the finals before the crash. Their short-haul jet had flown nearly 1,900 miles, right at its maximum range, but it was put into a holding pattern above Medellin. The pilots radio the tower, asking for priority landing. We're having a fuel problem. But just 7 minutes later, the pilot calls out, total failure, electric, total, and fuel.
They now have nothing but battery power, and they're gliding. They have no electronic aids that can take them to the airport.
So the pilots desperately calling out for directions, vectors. A minute later, the final plea for help. 8 miles from the airport, the jet crashes. No fire, no fuel found.
The airplane ran out of gas. Why it ran out of gas, why the crew made the bad decisions that they made, could they have saved it if they'd declared an emergency early on? 3
of the players survived, 2 crew members too. One saying he did so by curling up in the fetal position and reportedly telling a South American sports network others in the plane stood up and started yelling after the jet ran out of fuel. The black boxes have now been turned over to investigators from the United Kingdom. They'll read them out, and guys, that's going to tell us a lot about what the pilots were saying inside the cockpit, and will answer a lot of the questions about this tragic plane crash.
Oh, David, just to hear that audio like that, David, thank you. Now, Amy has the morning's other top stories, starting with another police officer killed in the line of duty.
That's right. An officer was shot and killed responding to a domestic call in Tacoma, Washington. The neighborhood was placed on lockdown as a standoff with the shooter continued into the early morning. And then a somber scene as the officer's body was taken away. 133 law enforcement officers in the United States have died in the line of duty this year alone. That is more than during all of last year. Well, the fourth and final inmate who escaped from a California jail has been captured. Rogelio Chavez was arrested at his sister's home in San Jose after an 8-hour standoff. Police say he had been hiding in the attic. And Major League Baseball owners and players have agreed to a new labor deal avoiding a lockout. Both sides reportedly agreed to ban first-year players from using smokeless tobacco. And the All-Star game will no longer determine home field advantage in the World Series. Instead, the team with the best record will get the advantage. And finally, wow, the shape of your chicken McNuggets are not as random as you may have thought, and I'm sure you've put some thought into it. McDonald's has revealed its nuggets come in 4 distinct shapes, which has apparently shocked even the most loyal McDonald's fans. Each shape even has a name: the bell, the ball, the boot, and the bone. And McDonald's says these shapes are the perfect equilibrium of dippability and fun.
Dippability.
I wanted to get that in. Dippability.
Yeah.
They made it one.
But I like the boot because you got a little something to hang on to with the boot.
Scooped it, right?
We both said dippability. We both were thinking the boot. We're on the same page.
Yeah. Thanks, Amy.
All right, thank you, Amy. Now, take a look at this video. And yes, that's a man reaching into a truck and walking away with a massive pot of gold, and he is not a leprechaun, okay? And that's just blocks away from Times Square. And Lindsay Davis, she has the story.
This morning, a $100,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of this stolen pot of gold. You heard it right, a pot of gold worth more than $1.5 million. Police are calling the investigation Operation Lucky Charms. It was not a sophisticated heist like the Italian job.
13 across, 4 high, 4 deep.
Rather, police think the robber just stumbled onto an opening and pounced.
Do you think he knew it was a bucket of gold at the time?
I believe he believed that it was of value. It was in an armored truck with armed guards.
It happened in New York City's Diamond District. The barrel was taken right out of the back of an armored vehicle at the precise moment when one of the armed guards turned his back. The guard reportedly only noticed the bucket was missing because that's the bucket he used to rest his feet while he sat. Loomis, the armored truck company, told ABC News their guards were targeted by professional thieves. The container of gold flakes, nearly 90 pounds, so heavy the thief had to keep putting it down, which might explain why it took him an hour to walk half a mile. He then got into a white car.
So it's gold flakes? What would somebody do with that?
Gold flakes could be melted down and put into cubes and then sold.
This newly released video is from late September, so the culprit has a 2-month head start. Police say so far they believe the end of the rainbow for the man they're dubbing the leprechaun may be Florida. Pawn shops there are on high alert. For Good Morning America, Lindsay Davis, ABC News, New York.
Seems like that was too easy.
What a story.
And we just gave the playbook.
Yeah, exactly. Now he knows what to do with those gold flakes.
Okay, let's go back to Rob. We got a lot of rain coming.
Yeah, which brings rainbows, which brings pots of gold, I'm told. Although I haven't seen one of those in a while. A winter storm warning across northern Maine and our friends north of the border there. Here's the rain in Boston. It's moving out. We are drying out. That low finally kicking out, and we will take that for sure. Your Sunny Cities Now, brought to you by Cosequin.
You know, people always ask me, hey, Jungle Jack, does that Cosequin really work? I say, heck yeah, look at him go. And Cosequin keeps all kinds of dogs moving. Big dogs, tiny dogs, spotted dogs, wiener dogs, and even these guys.
For dogs, cats, or horses, trust Cosequin, the #1 vet-recommended retail brand of joint health supplements the Hannas rely on.
Merry Christmas from the Nutramax family. And don't forget, Cosequin makes a great stocking stuffer.
Available at veterinarians and pet aisles nationwide.
Well, the rain has moved out. Skies clearing. We will have sunshine today, but it is going to be a breezy Thursday. We could see winds gusting to about 25 miles per hour. Breezy with temperatures rising to the mid-50s later today. And check out tomorrow. Temperatures continue to cool tomorrow through the weekend. Your cooler day Sunday and the day with the most clouds. So at least Saturday is going to be really nice for getting out, hanging some decorations. Next week, we're tracking our next chance of rain Tuesday with highs only in the upper 40s as well. Have a great day.
Coming up, we have an ABC News exclusive. The husband of that mom who vanished, breaking his silence, revealing what happened the moment his wife escaped.
She's saying, well, maybe people aren't stopping because